think it feels a lot like freedom when I lose my hope. It feels like gold.
Hey everyone, back for streaming today. Gonna carry on painting my blue spotted ray. I managed to get all the blocks of colour down and I'm going to start doing a bit of detailing. I think what I'll do is I'll probably focus on the actual ray itself rather than the background, and hopefully get a bit of colour around the blue spots, making sure the colour's a bit more consistent. So on the top left, that's what I'm painting. Sorry, my tablet needs resetting. So I think what I'll start doing today, I'll work I think I'll work around the front area, around this area, and then maybe work backwards. So I need to lighten up the green, make it a little bit more detailed. All the spots have a little bit of black around them as well. Do some highlighting around the eye and this eye as well. Make it a little bit clearer as to what's going on. So as I say, I've only got the blocks down, I've not really got any detail yet, so we'll go from there. Grabbing the reference image. There we go. Sorry, my tablet had a little bit of a crash. So what I'm going to do, as I say, I'm going to work on this area, lighten it up a bit. There's a nice bit of detail up here. It goes into darker, which I've already got. The colour's slightly wrong. So it's actually quite yellowy. Messaging someone. So, as I say, I'll work on this area. It's quite yellowy in the reference image. There's a nice little bit of detail, as if it's like mimicking the sand texture. Also around here, there's a nice bit of detail mimicking sand texture with some highlights of where the sand is. The actual sand is a lot lighter, so if I get bored, I might go and do a bit of a whitewash with the rest of the sand. There's also a really lovely orangey highlight along here. So I might end up doing that today. So yeah, let's head on and see what to do. So I'm going to with my favourite colour, which is yellow ochre. And I'm going to start lightening up this area with the yellow ochre. Clear up the rubbish there. And as always whack down a bit of white. If there's a bit of tan as well in here. I think there's a slight bit of tan in this image, even though it's not really a person and tan's more associated with a person. And then I'll grab my vermilion. Is it vermilion or I think cadmium orange? Or orange red actually is probably more accurate. So I'll start doing a little bit of painting. How detailed is this? Quite detailed, but I'll use a sort of generically. Yeah, I think that's probably quite a nice brush to start with. So I'm going to mix a bit of yellow ochre with a bit of white, so I can lighten that up. Might need a bit more yellow actually. I don't really want a bright yellow, I want a more maybe cadmium yellow. Oh, quite strong that. I'll just mix that back in there. I'm going to start doing the detail around here. Hopefully you can already see it bringing up a little bit of a change. But that comes... oh, I've missed a couple of spots here. Do them in later. So I'll do a little bit of a... as I say, this is always very rough until you've really got the scheme going. Really quite dark along here actually. What's quite nice about this is there's nice little lines of sort of a sandy texture. What I quite like about these brushes, they're kind of flat. You can get quite relatively thin lines. I will need to go over this again. You can get relatively thin lines, but you can get good texture. Let me grab this brush. Sorry about the microphone. That's cool. There's also quite a lot of white scatter along here, so I'm just going to quickly just scatter it. I don't know whether it's sand reflecting or not. Nice bit of bridge work here. Well, I'm quite new to streaming. I started painting when I was back when my grandmother died in sort of April time. My first real painting, like proper effort of painting, was a bit of a tribute to her. The reason I did it was I just felt like it was something I needed to do. I needed to. She inspired me. I was going to paint her portrait. Now, let me go on to my gallery view, which I believe is that one. So in the gallery view, you'll be able to see my grandmother, which is the first painting, the first proper portrait I ever did. And it really inspired me to keep going. So I did that in April. Since then, I kind of branched out. At school, I was always told I was very good at painting, but never really. I went to one of those schools where sciences was really trumped everything. I'm actually holding off sort of dealing with this lip because that's quite dark in the painting. So I'm just doing a little bit of detail as we go along here, a bit of texture. As I say, I think that's really sand. The sand is actually very white in Egypt. See, that's my grandmother in the top left. That's the first proper portrait I ever did. So I did that back in sort of April. And I just continued. She's kind of inspired me to start painting properly. So I've been painting portraits, a few animals since. I like painting real things, things that have an expression, things that you can really, really understand. Like something deep, something in the eyes, like those two kids. You can really see their expressions on the face. Very yellow bits here. Just going to run the ridges along here because there is some very yellow ridges. It's like the ray has mimicked what sort of sand looks like once it's been rippled over. Maybe that's an evolutionary thing, so it doesn't see it. Don't really know what the point of the blue spots then, if it's trying to hide itself with sand and then suddenly evolutionary it's created some ripples in the sand. Hi John. Hope you're enjoying the stream. So just, I'm streaming this on Twitch as well, so I'm live streaming to 2 platforms. With Pro 1, you can always head over there. All of my VODs and videos will be on YouTube and Twitch afterwards, so you can re-watch them. But I do plan, once I complete a painting, what I plan to do is sort of put them on both Twitch and YouTube so they can be watched afterwards. So I'm now going to put the dark bits of these like ridges. Don't know how well you can see that on the camera actually. I'm just having a look at the picture. Not sure how well you can see that. Tell you what. Just zoom into the area I'm working on. You can really see what I'm doing. Thank you, John. I need to change the lighting settings as well. Hopefully you can see really quite detailed what I'm doing now. There's a lot of texture on this lip. It's almost as if it's got a moustache or something. Let me stand back and have a look. Nope. the reference image back up. So I'll put the big reference image up. So what we'll do, so the area I'm painting is obviously the front. I don't know how well you can see it on the stream, but you can see how the ridges work. I've made them probably a little bit, possibly too much on the actual painting, but we can always soften that down later on. It's quite a dark lip here, so it's quite shaded. So I'm just going to put a fairly light, so I'm going to use the other brush. So I'm gonna grade it down. So I'm using raw yellow ochre, as in not darkened down at all. And then I'm gonna step it up and then make it a little bit darker with I don't know which colour, some sort of browny colour, I guess. I tend to like working light to dark. Sorry, dark to light, not light to dark. Let me do a bit of raw umber. So I'll mix a bit of raw umber with the this cadmium yellow mix I've got here. I think that'll make quite a nice shade. Again, I can always go darker or lighter as I needed. It's still quite light, but we've got quite a nice sort of orangey yellow, which is the highlight there, which is probably similar to this colour here. So I'll just do the highlight there. I'm just going to go really dark with a little bit of a see me use my finger quite a lot. I tend to use it quite a lot as I go through. There's also quite a lot of texture in the shadow. I'll do that later on when I'm doing the background. I'm going to grab a bit of Payne's Grey just to really work on this darkness. Payne's Grey. Get a little bit lighter with the brown. So Payne's Grey is like, I don't know, I use it an awful lot for the shadowing. It's slightly bluey grey. I think it's far more natural. I really hate using black. I'm not a fan of black at all when I'm painting. Some people use it look great, I just don't really get on with it. But as you can see now, what I'm doing is I'm kind of mixing the Payne's Grey in with the paint already on the canvas. So you'll see me not really paying much. You'll see me not really mixing on the palette. I quite often don't mix. I quite just mix on the canvas itself. I'm adding a bit of detail and texture now. There's definitely a slight orange glow to this whole thing, so let me mix a bit of orange into the darker colour. Up so you can see what I'm doing. I've mixed a bit of orange just so that I can sort of feed it into this. Oh. Another technique I do, just a tiny little patch of colour, then just blend it in with my fingers. That's gone a bit too far, that one. But... So this is what I do enjoy, using my fingers a lot when I do the art. I'm just going to work my way up the body of the animal, up the nose, as it were. Have a nose? I suppose it does, doesn't it? This is where I was talking about using that finger technique. You can really change the colour of something very easily just by blending it in with your finger. It does make your finger very messy though. Blend this all in, it looks a bit weird at the moment. Oops. So scuba diving, I took this in Egypt, 2016 maybe. I used to scuba dive quite a lot. It used to be honestly one of my favourite hobbies. I haven't done it for a long time. Last time I dived was in Jersey in around 2018, I guess. One of the reasons I stopped was I started getting, I had a couple of instances of decompression sickness. And I suddenly thought to myself, you know what? I'm irresponsible going here. I've got people who care for me. It's irresponsible. And I think I've had all the heart checkups and everything just to try and understand why I had the decompression sickness. But I think some people just aren't made for it. But one of the key things is, if you're overweight, you can get decompression sickness. So I just think it was responsible to, at least if I'm ever going to go diving again, get my weight down to where it should be before I even contemplate doing it again. I probably won't ever do it again. You know, you get to a point where you're like, you know what, life is as it is. But if you do ever get the chance to go scuba diving, I'd recommend it. It is one of possibly the most fantastic things you can do. It's absolutely stunning, absolutely beautiful. And honestly, I'd recommend it to anyone. I even introduced scuba diving to my parents. Unfortunately, my father was unable to go. My mother did try a dive. She did one dive. She got down to about, I think it was 10 meters. And she had a small panic attack underwater, and the instructor had to bring her back up. But it really was illuminating and eye-opening. And I think my father regrets somehow that he wasn't able to do it, but that was due to some sort of medical condition. If you ever want to be in a totally different world, it's absolutely beautiful. It's like being weightless. Well, it is weightless. You are weightless because you're sort of matching the like buoyancy of the water. So you are effectively weightless. Just trying to add a bit of detail here. A bit about this area here. Just add a bit of texture. In fact, the image is pretty flat there, to be honest. I'm adding a bit of texture. Let me add a bit of brown. I'm wondering whether I should do this bit. Oh, by the way, this is... I haven't done it very well. This is actually a shadow, not a mouth. So I'm going to sort that out so you can see it's a shadow. Because this actually comes down like this and back up here. And then you should be able to see, if I do it correctly, comes back underneath. But it's a little bit sort of get some Payne's Grey, as I keep saying. It's more like get out of jail card, the Payne's Grey. You can see that's a little bit more realistic. Obviously I'll sort out the shadow and put some texture on it like I will do with all the grass. Not grass, the sand. So we'll make sure that the background is all textured. I'm now going to deal with this little flap here. That might take me up to the end of the stream, so I will have done this little bit. Today's stream is going to be quite short. I'm quite tired and I'm still testing out the software. I'll just zoom out so you can see the entire picture. You can see the difference it's made. It's a lot more highlighted over there. Just focusing. So what I'll probably do is I'll do the whole of the body of the ray, get all the texture in. The nose is the most textured bit. And then from there, I would end up doing all of the sort of spots. I need to work on the eye and around here as well. Yeah. As I say, it's about getting the texture in at the moment. You can actually see that difference that that's making. Oh, that's a bit bright. To be fair, it is quite bright. The edges of this ray are very bright. They've definitely got a border. Really highlighted border here. I'm just going to do that. And then I'm going to bring in a different green. Permanent green. That is quite bright actually. Remember the acrylics are always very bright, so you have to dull them down with colours. So I'm going to mix this with some Payne's Grey. Sorry, Payne's Grey. Some yellow ochre. The reason I've done this is because of this. There's some lovely sort of lines. Oh, not like that, right? Just going to go to an even finer brush. It's actually quite a stiff brush. I think it's because it's quite old, but so I might be wrong here, but I feel like blue spotted rays are pretty much everywhere. I feel like I've seen them in Thailand, Malaysia and Egypt. They're pretty widespread. The other thing that's pretty widespread is the lionfish. However, they're invasive in certain parts of the world. The lionfish are everywhere. I'm just adding a bit of a border. It's very dark around this area. It might be a bit too dark, but I can always lighten it up. One of the tips I do, rather than getting the palette wet, I quite often dip my brush and then in the paint, and then get the bit in the water, so it sort of loosens the paint rather than getting my palette wet, because quite a lot of the time you don't want to have the palette wet. You don't want water and paint running everywhere on the palette. It's interesting because that looks, I'm not sure if my screens are not calibrated, but that looks quite different in real life. I'm going to add the highlight around the edge. I have no fear of just painting white directly on here. White tends to dry less white when you paint it. Really bright around here actually. Really nice highlight there. I'm going to show you another tip just now. If I want to lighten up an area, a little bit of white on and then just use my finger. Then you can see the whole area gets a little bit lighter. The same with this area here, this needs a bit of a highlight. Just whack a little bit on and you get a highlight. Just as the main bit, there's a few little sort of highlights around here. Just smother them down. I'll zoom out again so you can see what I've actually done. So hopefully you can see a little bit more of the front bit is more accurate to real life. Needs to be a bit more highlight around here. So as again, just whack it on, use your finger, whack it on. Oops, that was a bit dark. Whack it on, use your finger. You've got a nice sort of glossy highlight there. Too much actually. But yeah. And then up along here, got a bit of white as well. Here you got some white lying on the ridge of the nose area. I'll whack on a bit of yellow as well in these areas. As I said, I'll sort out all the spots later on in a separate sort of session. How's that look? Getting there. It's getting there. Deal with this bit now. So this is actually quite orange with a bit of green. So I'm going to do the green first and then cover it up with the orange, I think. So the actual edge, quite green. Has a highlight around here, but I'm going to paint it green to begin with. There's some sort of weird spot thing there. And then it comes down into a much darker area. So I need to use a bit of Payne's Grey, but I'm just, oops. I do that quite a lot. Drop the paintbrush because I don't really hold the paint, grip the paintbrush very hard. So again, you can do this with darkening as well, like I showed you with the highlight. Dab a tiny little bit of darker and then just use your finger to sort of brush it in. Smudge it in. Smudge it in, brush it in. It's a bit. So in that occasion I would use a bit of water to loosen up dried paint. Again, a bit of smudging. I never go for super realistic when I paint. If you try and go for super realistic, in my opinion, I'm just going to be disappointed. Because A, it takes far too long. B, cameras for super realistic. Use a camera. So now I've done the dark bits, I tend to work, as I keep saying, I tend to work dark into the light. So I'm going to do the light highlights in a sec. I'm going to use the same brush. Can I clean this brush? I have a bit of a bad habit of not cleaning brushes, to be honest. So there's a highlight that does something like this. I don't know why. I don't know what it is. But let's do that. When it goes a bit wrong like that, the slide is going to fill that out. So as I say, it's not ever going to be super realistic. I don't really go for that super realistic look. If it were in that spot again, which is green. This is a bit bright, isn't it? I think that's more realistic. The colouring. Well, hopefully you can actually see what's going on here. That's completely wrong. So right now I'm trying to define the difference between this bit and this bit. And actually there is a highlight there, so let me grab the light yellow. To be honest, my palette's drying up a bit. I don't really want to get new paint out though, because I'll be finishing fairly soon. So even if there's not a highlight in the picture, what I tend to do is I tend to add one because it feels like there should be one. So I definitely need to define the edge between flappy bits, I don't know what they're called, wings maybe, and the body. This is actually a really dark bit of the animal back here. I might need even a bit more Payne's grey, make it a bit even darker. Just with the other one, I'm just going to do a little bit of texture here. And the edge is very highlighted as well, just like it is in the rest of the animal. Has a few ridges as well, this bit. This one has a few ridges as well, so let me just sort of go in, define the edge a little bit more. While I'm at it, I'm just going to fix the eye a little bit. Yeah, that didn't fix it, that did the opposite. I'll come in with some black later on and fix the eye. So now I've figured out how to do all the streams, I'll be streaming regularly. I will put a schedule up on both Twitch and YouTube. I might start streaming to Facebook, depending on how I feel. I'm a bit against Facebook in general, but maybe I'll swallow my pride a bit. Oh wow, that really pops now, doesn't it? That eye. It's really nice. Just gonna lighten up this black bit here. Yeah, I really like that eye. Popping really nicely now. So that comes down like that. As I said, I'm going to blend it with my finger like I quite often do, just to make sure the edges aren't as sharp. If you want to take a look at my sort of recent gallery, recent work, I just thought I'd put this on full screen so you can actually see. While I just finish off some of the highlights around the eye. There's a lot more work in the eyes. There's a lot of really quite a nice orange. There's also a couple of highlights I need to add. A really, really bright highlight on the right on the edge of that. So there you go. Too bright? I don't know. According to the photo, it doesn't look that bright. I will dumb it down a bit though. It is a bit bright. Yeah, that looks nice. And from the edge here, defining. Using highlights to define the edge is quite a nice way of doing things. And this eye is completely wrong. So what I've just noticed is the shape of the eye is completely wrong. It comes up like this to a point. I'm just going to leave that like that just to remind me tomorrow I need to paint over it. Or whenever I come back to this painting. So I should go back to this. So I've just added a bit of a highlight there. I'm just going to add a tiny touch of a highlight there as well. I think the key thing is this whole area has a lot of I assume it's sand, like in the scales or something, like sand stuck on it. I dumb it down a bit with my finger. So, I think the front portion of it I've picked quite nicely. I'm going to end the stream now. Thank you for watching. Please share, like and subscribe and all that kind of jazz that other people say. So yeah, thanks for coming, thanks for watching. I've done what I intended to do, just the front bit. The rest of it I should be able to complete in the next sitting. The actual spots, I think they all require a little bit of detail, and then finally I'll finish off with the background and finish off with loads of highlighting. I tend to do all the highlighting last in general. So yeah, thanks for watching. I hope you can see it coming along and see how it's progressing. And thank you. I'll see you next time.